Okay, so in session number 2 of how to pre-record your radio show, we're going to focus on Audio Hijack. Audio Hijack is a piece of software that works really well for recording whatever comes through your computer. Unfortunately for you Windows users, it's Mac only. I haven't been able to find anything that is quite as one-stop shop as Audio Hijack on Windows. But it may be that if you do a little bit of searching, you'll be able to find some combination of software that will do something similar. But in any case, today we're talking about Audio Hijack. Audio Hijack is particularly useful if you're a relatively experienced radio programmer, because what you're going to do is simply perform your radio show straight through and have Audio Hijack record everything you do. Now, if you're not very experienced at this, you may have a lot of starts and stops, which is going to make it less useful to do it this way as opposed to going Audacity as we looked at last time. But in any case, here we are, Audio Hijack. I open the window. I say, New Session. And it gives you a bunch of templates to use. You can record from just about any source that your computer can handle. For today's session, we're going to choose Application Audio. So you double click that, it opens the window for the session, and you can see it sets you up with a basic flow for how your sound is going to work. It comes from some application, any application, goes to the recorder, which records it, and then also comes out the internal speakers, which is useful so you can hear what you're doing while you're recording. This is basic and will work for just recording something that's happening, but it's not really quite enough for doing a full radio show. So what we're going to do is customize this a little bit. First, we're going to choose the app that we want to use. It has a bunch of suggestions, and you could choose anything that's running. Today, I'm going to use iTunes just because it's easy and most people have that and use it for this purpose. There we go. Now, that's the application. It goes to the recorder and to the output. We're also obviously going to want to use a microphone since it's a radio show and we're going to want to do some talking. So we go over here to Sources, pick Input Device, and drag that down here. You can see that this now connects automatically to the recording application, which is the second part of the tree here. If you click on any of these, you can see how their setups are. In this case, this is set up to take the input, or takes the output from the audio interface that I'm using on my Mac. You want to make sure this says on in order for that to work. So now we've got music, talking, recording, and listening, which is pretty good, but it's still not everything we need. One of the things we want to do is to make sure that the levels of the music and the talking are similar. So the first thing we're going to want to do here is add a volume box to both the music and the microphone flow. That'll enable you to check and see how your levels are. I also like to have a view meter so that you can see the levels as they pass through from each input toward the recording device and the listening device. Now, the way in Audio Hijack that you test your volumes before you start recording is you have to actually press record, but we don't necessarily want to record a file at this point. We're just testing. So if we click on the recorder portion of this, we can turn it off. And then when you press record, it doesn't actually record anything. It just shows you what the levels are here. So I can set the volume this way for my microphone, and I'll want to test some music here to do that as well. So I'll pop this open and pick, say, this one. Okay, we're looking pretty good here, I'd say. Maybe bring the volume on the music down a little bit to level it out with my voice. That makes it a little closer there. Okay, we're going to call that good enough. Now I'll go back and turn this off for now so that we can get started with the show. All right, so ready to go. We want to have the recorder on. Here is where you can change things like what you want the file name to be, which it actually has to be off to do that. In this case, I'm going to just call it my show, but you'll probably want to call it your show. It'll automatically put the date and time in, unless you don't want it to, but it seems like a useful thing for future purposes. It records by default to high quality MP3. You can change that if you want to, but that seems useful for current purposes. You can explore a lot of this later when you're doing it on your own. But for now, we're just going to turn that on. Click anywhere on the screen to get rid of that. And now we're ready to go. So let's see, what's our first song going to be? Let's pick Romeo and Juliet. So this is me recording. I hit the record button. This is WBCR-lp, Great Barrington. Coming up next, Dire Straits with Romeo and Juliet. And you can see it's recording as we go. Now it would make most sense to turn the microphone off while the music is on. We're going to leave it on for right now, though, so that you can still hear my instructions. So I'll jump right to the end of this. That was Dire Straits with Romeo and Juliet. Coming up next, Sex is Not the Enemy from Garbage. So that's what you'll be doing throughout this. Basically, you can see that's all you need to do. You can just record your own show without doing anything other than switching back and forth between songs and voice, just like that. And at the end, you'll have a recording. You can find your recordings by clicking on the recording button at the bottom here. And you will see the most recent one, My Show. If you click on My Show, it'll tell you, let you put in any information that you want about the title. All of this is sort of more intended for specific musical tracks. But you can see I have that recorded, and there you have it. Good luck with it. There's a lot more settings you can explore in here. Probably when you're done, you're going to want to quickly pop it into an audio application like Audacity to take out any inadvertent sounds or places where you didn't bring the music in as quickly as you wanted to. You can take out silences and things like that. But it's pretty simple. It takes a little bit to get used to, but once you get used to it, you're just recording straight through from as many sources as you want, and you end up with your radio show at the end.